We are in Queens, New York tonight for a potentially table-defining clash in the Eastern Conference as New York City FC 2 desperately looks to snap its largest winless run of the season against an FC Cincinnati 2 side with table-topping aspirations on its mind. A massive clash in the East in MLS NEXT Pro this evening. We say hello and welcome here from Belson Stadium. Sam Goldfarb here. A massive battle between a pair of sides with drastically different goals in their mind. For New York, a 5-match winless run entering today that has sent them tumbling below the playoff line in the live table. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, Cincinnati looking to reclaim the top spot in the East ahead of the final match day. And speaking of those standings, how about we take a look right now? The Eastern Conference table at the minute. This is the live standing. So remember, the top 3 teams have clinched. Cincinnati already into the playoffs. They will be hosting at least a quarterfinal match. But remember, if they win today, they will enter the final match day 2 points clear of Union 2 with a chance to clinch the top spot in the East. Meanwhile, New York, they have tumbled from 5th to 9th today due to results elsewhere going against them. The likes of Crown Legacy, Fire 2, and Chattanooga all winning. Meanwhile, Carolina Core in the lead as we speak. So that presents a must-win scenario if you're New York to put yourself in a place to control your destiny entering the final match day. Huge stakes at play for both teams, especially for New York as it hunts its first postseason appearance. Well, let's take a look at the lineups for tonight. For New York, a team that has made a few alterations, one to be precise. It comes in the heart of defense. Samuel Olusu returning to the 11, and then the front 3 always dangerous of Johnny Shore, Taylor Calera, and Jonathan Jimenez. Keep your eye on Calera, a man who's 3rd in MLS NEXT Pro in goals. If New York's going to win this game, they're going to have to score first and ratchet up the scoring against one of the best defenses the league has to offer. If this gets to be a battle between the 18s, I think it favors Tyrone Marshall's bunch. And on the subject of Tyrone Marshall's side, how about we take a look at the FC Cincinnati 2 lineup coming on your screen as we speak. For Cincinnati, this is a team that's made 2 changes from the 2-0 victory over Huntsville. Remember, oddly enough, Ben Stitz, their top scorer, not in the 11 tonight. He's on the bench. Stefan Chirilla anchoring the side up front, and then the duo in behind of Kenji Mbomadem and Peter Mangione. Those 2 very dangerous. It's a side with veteran leadership, and Nico Benalcazar is someone with experience in New York's academy. He sits on the back line captaining the side tonight. Well, we are just about set to get things underway here from Belson Stadium on the campus of St. John's University. It is the rematch of what was a pretty thrilling 1-1 draw at Northern Kentucky University in early July. That a match where New York had the early advantage and then squandered it. Guilherme Santos equalizing just shy of the hour mark. The 2 sides just getting ready to line up. You look at the state of affairs, it's pretty urgent if you're New York. A team that has lost its last 2 matches and since the calendars flipped to September has been dealt a number of tough blow after tough blow, losing 3 penalty shootouts before these 2 defeats. It is a stretch where Matt Pilkington still says he feels optimistic about his side. He says it is about taking takeaways based on the performance quality rather than the results. But they will have to regroup after squandering a 2-goal first-half advantage at Union 2 on Monday night. And it sets the stage for a must-win when they had the playoffs all but wrapped up. It's made for a nervy scenario if you are New York. Well, it's interesting right now, the playoff chase for both East and West. We showed you the Eastern Conference standings. Here is the West, where 6 of the 8 teams have already clinched. It is far less of a wild card in terms of who will host for the most part, as well as who will get into the playoffs. But you look between 7 and really 11 in the table, and it's still pretty tight. 5 points separating Whitecaps 2 from Timbers 2. And around the playoff line, there's about 4 or 5 teams competing for 2 spots right now. It makes for a very exciting postseason chase in both conferences, even if we know the makeup of the field roughly more in the West. Well, in the East, it is kind of the wild, wild West in many respects. When it comes to the table, a lot of moving and shaking already today. A lot of moving and shaking that has not favored New York. It puts them in a position where they need a result to control their destiny against the side that entered this weekend top of the Eastern Conference. It is an unenviable task for Matt Pilkington's squad, but it is one they must accomplish ahead of their final fixture next week. Well, New York is about set to get us underway. They are in the navy with white numbers. Taylor Calera standing over the ball as we speak. And FC Cincinnati in their road whites with the hoops and the orange numbers on the back. It is a clear kit battle. We just await the referee's signal tonight. Our official tonight, Benjamin Meyer, the lead official, gets us underway. His assistants, Marcus Moss and Fritz Barbarouse. Kenneth Rojas, the 4th official this evening. We are underway. It feels like a must-win scenario for New York in terms of putting themselves in optimal postseason position. And for Cincinnati, their quest for the Eastern Conference's top seed runs through Queens. We welcome you in to Belson Stadium. The stakes are clear, and they are high in the penultimate match day of the Next Pro season. Sam Goldfarb here, bringing you every step of the way this evening. It is a return to Belson Stadium after New York played a multitude of home matches at the renowned Icon Stadium on the other side of the city. They're back on their usual stopping grounds. St. John's away from home tonight. When talking to Matt Pilkington, he said, "We understand the challenge. Cincinnati is incredibly organized. They are so defensively sound. It will take a strong performance to get a result tonight, but based on how things went up in northern Kentucky the last time they met, there is optimism." Now the question is, can they turn the optimism and silver linings into points down the stretch in this campaign? There's already a man down for Cincinnati. It's Kenji Mbomadem, who's just a bit slow to get up. Former Dayton man who impressed in his lone season with the Flyers last year. Hoofed forward towards Jimenez. One of the top attacking threats on this New York side. Baera, a young homegrown at 17 years of age. Snatched back confidently by Yair Ramos. And there's the first touch by Chirilla. And bashed ahead, and Mbomadem back on the pitch. Numbers for Cincinnati, and Mbomadem, a low driver into the gloves of Alex Rando for a routine stop. There is your look at the 23-year-old Alex Rando. So much experience, not quite at first team level just yet, but someone who has played both in the USL Championship and MLS Next Pro, and this season has been the top choice when available. A save rate north of 70%, 64 saves to his name as well entering tonight. Very sound performer between the sticks. The issue has been, he has been peppered of late. A New York defense which oozed promise for the bulk of the campaign has been a bit leakier than Matt Pilkington would have liked to see at this point in the season in the last few weeks or so. And Rando has been a tested man as a byproduct of that. When you look at the scene tonight, it is a brisk evening in New York. 62 degrees and partly cloudy. There's 6-mile-an-hour winds as well. It's beginning to feel like late fall here at Belson Stadium after a prolonged summer where teams were playing in the heat. Sets the stage for a chilly night as temperatures will only drop precipitously from there. Here is the former New York man, Ben Alcazar. Falls to the feet of Jimenez. Elias. Taken off him, and it falls to the feet of Mangione, the Penn State product. Early cross from Daly. New York looking to play out of traffic. It's the first proper bout of possession we've seen tonight from Cincinnati. We spoke to Tyrone Marshall this week, and he's mentioned how proud he is of his side for being so tough to break down, even in moments where teams throw different looks at them going forward. Last week it was a more difficult match than the 2-0 scoreline indicated at Huntsville. And he felt his side was under fire far too much in the first half, but Ryan Schaefer nicked the opener 15 minutes in, and it did give them some breathing room to bend and not break. And then in the second half, they regrouped and started to dominate proceedings. Wound up taking care of business once again for another victory. They enter with back-to-back tonight, and it is a team that has been very tough to beat these last few months. Here's Jimenez, streaking ahead down this right-hand side. Baera on the underlap. Snatched away by Schaefer. Floated towards Chirilla. Rusu shoving him to the deck. There's no whistle from the official. Have been many forays forward from New York in the early stages of this. We still await our first proper display of incision. Goals have not been the problem by any means from New York City FC2 these last few months. Despite struggling to get over the line in matches, they've put the ball in the back of the net. The issue has more been a defense that has conceded multiple goals in 7 of the last 8. They will dominate the run of play. They will put pressure on your back line, but occasionally can be caught out, especially on the break. Chirilla driving this wide. Falls to the feet of Moises Tablante. Read well by Rosansky, the elder statesman of this New York side. There's your look at Ben Alcazar, captaining Cincinnati tonight, despite his long history with New York City's youth academy and second team the last couple years. Ultimately didn't have his contract option renewed in the offseason, and so he's made the move to Cincinnati and has worked his way into the 11 with regularity. He's playing in his natural role tonight. He is more known, at least with Cincy, as a deeper lying center mid. Here's Daly, a switch of the play to Tablante in space. It is Moises Tablante, and the shot knuckled well beyond Rando's reach. Early signs of trouble, though, from those wing backs on the break. Daly, the Duke product who has been so productive in his rookie campaign with Cincinnati too. Tablante. He's methodical here from Cincinnati, not a side known for its final third dynamism on a regular basis. It's more built on its ironclad back line. They do flash moments of brilliance in the final third. And it is a score-by committee side as well, not overly reliant on one or two men. It's an attack that has come on of late as well. A pair of multi-goal outings these last couple games. Well, if you're just joining us, we welcome you into Belson Stadium. Just over 10 minutes gone here from Jamaica, Queens, New York, on the campus of St. John's University. A battle between a pair of sides that entered the weekend within the top 5 of the Eastern Conference standings. But as things stand, a New York team that finds itself having to procure a result tonight to end the weekend in the top 8. It has been a number of results that have broken against them and beginning to start to pay for this 5-match winless run they enter in the midst of. Cincinnati, they're battling for a return to the top of the Eastern Conference table. They've already locked up their first playoff berth in team history. It's the progressive ball inside. It's cleared only as far as the 18-year-old Yair Ramos. Back to the goalkeeper, Paul Walters, in his second season as a professional on a homegrown deal. Someone who he himself has posted pretty sound numbers for a Cincinnati side that's rotated its goalies. Calera breaking to the byline. It is right towards Ben Alcazar. Turn over to Amir Daly. Look at Walters' pedigree. Just 20 years of age, spent 1 year at Northwestern before returning last season. Didn't get a lot of playing time in the Big Ten. Has gotten plenty of it in MLS NEXT Pro, and there's been optimism surrounding his development. Himself and Hunter Morse have been the two go-to options between the sticks this year. With Walters being under contract with the first team, he's gotten the nod when the two are both on the team sheet. It's a long ball forward towards Tablante, who does win the foot race with Baera. It is Moises Tablante. It's still loose and finally pounced on by Rando. May have seen it a bit impaired, but he does enough to get a pair of palms to it at the end of the day. It's a loose clearance from Baera, and then he just gets out-wrestled to this. Tablante bashes it low, and Rando can only just stick his leg out. From there, just able to pounce on it before any further trouble ensues. But warning signs early on the break for New York. An area of weakness of late. Shore picks this up. It is Johnny Shore. Couldn't quite keep it down. Fans, this portion of the match is brought to you by St. John's University, the official undergraduate partner of New York City FC 2. Here is Jimenez strolling forward. Ben Alcazar just bashing it out of danger for the time being. We are rapidly approaching the quarter-hour mark here from Belson Stadium. Signs of budding end-to-end play. New York pressing the issue more in possession, which, given their need for multiple points tonight, should surprise no one. Anything short of 2 points would make things a little more complex entering the final day, and I tell you what, if they were to lose, it could prove catastrophic heading into the final match day. That entered today 5th in the Eastern Conference. With how close everything is between 3rd and 10th in the Eastern Conference table, it's made for one rocky run of results being able to change your destiny. New York does have the benefit of knowing it needs a little more than just a single point tonight, at least to put itself in a prime position. It is an interesting dichotomy of season in many respects. New York got off to a somewhat shaky start, then was on a tear for much of spring and early summer. The month of June and July were particularly kind to this club. Late on, despite having a well-defined lineup, struggling slightly for results. Ramos scored the dagger last week against Huntsville. Nearly snatched back, and now it is Calera, Elias. Back to the man who's 3rd in Next Pro in goals this year. Carrizo. Calera laying it off to Shore. There's a bit of space. Runs into a thicket of hooped shirts. Elias again. The fulcrum of this attack. Baera, very involved on both ends early on. He is an attack-minded fullback, something New York loves to develop. All action, outside backs. Wusu springing it wide. Carrizo. Chris Tiao, the Rutgers product, who was once a New York Red Bulls Academy member. We've already seen the obdurate nature of this Cincinnati back line. This is a side that boasts the 3rd best defense in MLS Next Pro. It kept its 8th clean sheet of the year last week. This is a very tough back line to break down. And talking to Tyrone Marshall about that, he said that's been their primary focus. He's realized that they are very tough to beat when they keep the scoring down. And the numbers speak for themselves. When they score first, a perfect 12-0-0. Jimenez dancing to the edge of the area. It's out for a New York throw. Elias, Carrizo, able to pick out Calera. It's cleared only as far as Owusu. He's back in the lineup after one match out of it. He had a really difficult fixture against Toronto on September 15th. So they made a quick change in the heart of defense, brought in the first teamer Rio Hope Gund into the center back spot alongside Clevis Haxere. Owusu back there and has been a mainstay all year. Largely has been quite solid as well. One game absence can freshen his mind a bit. This is Churilla, a young 17-year-old. Jimenez, Yair Ramos, Daly. Ramos trying from afar, rocketed it right at Rando, but by no means a shabby effort. It had venom to it. We can tell Ramos' confidence is sky high after scoring last week. Just puts his laces through this. New York fortunate that didn't knuckle or do anything funky. There are at least brief shots across the bow from Cincinnati, keeping the boys in blue honest. There is plenty of pressure the opposite direction, though, from New York. Many have come off this man's boots. Maximo Carrizo. Shore. Popping centrally now. Baera. It is a club that boasts a number of standout teenagers who are first-team homegrowns. Many of them make their trade with the second team and have been mainstays. The trio of poster children have been Johnny Shore, Maximo Carrizo, and Drew Baera for the most part, as Jimenez's challenge overzealous against the 23-year-old Moises Tablante. Fans, this portion of the match is brought to you by Adidas, the official kit supplier for New York City FC 2. We are just about at the midway point of this first half. Still no score between New York City FC 2 and FC Cincinnati 2. It is a fixture that New York has dominated in the short history of these two teams meeting. New York's 3-1-1 all time, but the last two meetings have failed to procure a win, including in the 1-1 draw on July 7th up at Northern Kentucky University. Required a second-half equalizer, though, from Cincinnati. A rare match in which they found themselves on the back foot this season. Here is Steven Jimenez, a young homegrown for FC Cincinnati, who has popped between the MLS and NEXT Pro outfits all year. Elias. Referee plays advantage. This is Jonathan Jimenez. Baera continuing to grow in influence tonight. Linking with Jimenez. Carrizo. the youngest homegrown signing in MLS history when he inked his first professional contract 2 years ago. Now at 16 years of age, beginning to come into more of his own maturity-wise. Goal contributions have popped up here and there. This is played wide to Amir Daly, who is very mature for his age in the wingback spot. You're beginning to hear the instructions of both coaches tonight. A pair of experienced coaches, Matt Pilkington in his third season looking to guide New York to its first postseason appearance in Next Pro. He's had them on the precipice of the playoffs last season, missing it by just a single point. He's hoping that lightning doesn't strike twice and history won't repeat itself this season. For Cincinnati, they were really a bottom feeder prior to this year. Tyrone Marshall has changed his approach from a personnel standpoint. Says he's prioritized bringing in experienced college and international players to complement his stable of academy lads. And it has made for a more holistic team and one that has competed on a more consistent basis. He says he has 6 captains or former captains from their respective college teams on his roster this year. And it makes for a side full of leaders, full of aplomb as well in the difficult moments. It's allowed them to grind out results even when performances haven't quite been up to snuff. It's been that adaptation which has revolutionized FCC2 this year. There's Gail Jabert, the former Clemson Tiger. Daly is offside. Well, the half-hour mark beckons, and still awaiting our first proper chance of the match. It has shaped up much like we've envisioned it. New York bossing possession, but not wanting to overexert itself in light of past struggles defensively. Meanwhile, Cincinnati is just waiting for its optimal moment to strike. Could it be now? This is Daly. Almost right into the path of Carrizo. He has Jimenez in space. Turns on the afterburners. Baera. Working with Jimenez. The return ball doesn't reach. Elias. You have the sense that if New York is to break through, these counters need to be quicker. When they win it back, perhaps the numbers have to surge forward a step or two faster to catch Cincinnati disorganized. Because remember, this is a side that has only conceded 30 goals in its first 26 games. It is incredibly organized, and when you look at the back line, the average age is 23 years old, which for MLS Next Pro is the equivalent of having 29 to 30-year-olds populating your back line at the MLS level. Very experienced defenders who have been battle-tested both in college and professionally. This is Shore. Falls to Jake Rosansky. Elias. Quite on the same wavelength as Calera, but it is snatched back by Rosansky. Elias again. This is Drew Baera. Has room here. It's still Baera. Looking to cut it across to Shore. Ran into the thicket of white and blue kids. Chirilla is wrestled to the deck by Haxari, and I believe the center back will be cautioned for his troubles. Yes, he will. So the 19-year-old Clevis Haxeri, the first man in the book for either side tonight. A relatively calm first half for Benjamin Meyer to officiate. Let's take another look at this. You see Baera streaking forward here. He nearly picked out Shore. And then on the clearance, when Chirilla was trying to venture out of trouble, just got dragged to the deck by Haxeri. There's no real debate about whether he should have been booked, and no protests as a result.
In the 29th minute. Tarjeta amarilla en el minuto 29 para el número 47 de New York City, Clevis Haxeri.
Clevis Haxeri, the first man in the book for either team. This is Elias. Carrizo. Things opening up for New York just a smidge. Carrizo again. Shore. So dynamic on the wing. Chirilla. This comes free. Daly is streaking forward. Flag stays down. It's Kenji Mboma-Dem opens the scoring. And just like that, Cincinnati on the break. The flag has stayed down. Well, in a blink, Cincinnati in front. And this is when they're at their best. Absorbing pressure, Kenji Mboma-Dem timing his run to perfection. And it's a routine one-on-one finish against Alex Rando. Just like that, the first chance of note. And Cincinnati's in front. Well, these are the familiar issues that have plagued New York of late. And Kenji Mboma-Dem, the dynamic center midfielder, paying dividends. His 7th of the season, the Frenchman, who made his trade at Dayton last year. Finally finding the breakthrough just beyond the half-hour mark. They had numbers breaking. Daly was breaking forward on the far side. And Mboma-Dem was through. And it was a clinical finish with poise. Kenji Mboma-Dem, the 56th overall pick in the 2024 MLS Super Draft. He breaks through again, a 3rd consecutive match with a goal contribution. His 2nd goal in the last 3 games. And has caught fire as one of the top creative talismen on this Cincinnati side. And he puts the orange and blue in front after 31 minutes. Matt Pilkington's side is now forced to go right back to the drawing board and try to break down a defense that specializes in protecting results. Remember, it is a side that has not dropped a single point after scoring first, 12-0-0. Now have scored first for the 13th time in 27 league matches. Ben Alcazar. He's off of Carrizo. Fans, this portion of the match is brought to you by Etihad Airways, the official airline partner of New York City FC 2. We are in the business end of the first half. Kenji Mboma-Dem's 31st minute opener, breaking the deadlock on the counterattack. And in a half where Cincinnati's had very little doing in the final third, they waited for New York to overexert itself and caught them flush on the counterattack. It is a textbook FCC2 goal this year. Side that has only won when being the initial team to find the back of the net this season. Benefiting again. This is Tablante. And now ushering it outside to Daly. And Bomadem flicking it along. Here is the goal scorer. Dazzling around the edge of the area. Chirilla. And this is Stefan Chirilla. Wasn't far off. Clever negotiation on the edge of the area by both Bomadem and Chirilla. No, just can't keep this down. It had the venom. It didn't have the accuracy or knuckle necessary. Schaefer. And Chirilla is well offside. When you look at Kenji Bomadem, the way he has impressed in his first professional season, he actually missed the bulk of the first 2-3 months of the year with some nagging injury issues. Then between early and late June, bagged 4 goals and 2 assists in a pretty compact span of matches. And he established himself as a regular presence in this 11. Someone who in the college ranks, both with University of Nebraska, Omaha, and Dayton, dismantled opposing defenses with his invention on the ball. But the finishing has developed leaps and bounds as well. It was on full display there. Tablante. Stays for Moises Tablante. May have taken a heavy touch. Referee, though, points to the corner flag. So first corner of the match for either side goes Cincinnati's way. And with the way they've defended this season, a second before intermission could prove to be a devastating blow for New York. And Bomadem with outswing. Is not a bad delivery. This is Ramos. Snatched back by Ben Alcazar. And continuing his run. Just running out of real estate with Owusu in the near vicinity. Jimenez had a tug on the shirt and now plays this wide to Carrizo. They will return to the earlier challenge, and I believe Steven Jimenez may see his name in the book for that. Yellow was shown without hesitation from our lead official tonight. First Cincy man in the book is the 17-year-old Steven Jimenez for his tug on Jonathan Jimenez. They've actually booked Tablante for the challenge. It appeared
A yellow
Jimenez
card
was
has been
the
issued to
nearest man.
Cincinnati's number 45, Moises Tablante, in the 37th minute.
So Tablante, the first Cincy man booked. This is Bayara stands over this. It's an arcing cross. Nearly fell for Clevis Axere. Only as far as Rosansky. Jimenez. Picking out Bayera. It's a low cross. It's one that took a touch off Calera, who's appealing for a corner. Those pleas have been staunchly waved away. If you are in New York, the question becomes how you navigate things in the second, because you put yourself in a slightly difficult position. You've already seen firsthand how the visitors have been able to break. Cincinnati scoring on the counter, with New York continuing to ramp up the pressure. But now, in order to break down one of the best back lines in the league, you will likely have to concentrate more resources. So the game script certainly favors Tyrone Marshall's side. question becomes, can New York snatch a goal to get back into this match? Or else they may be doomed beneath the playoff line come the end of the weekend. Daly. Calera is down on the deck. And Yair Ramos was penalized initially. Did leave the boot dangling. Just a talking to from our official tonight. Baera. Carrizo. Clever ball forward to Jonathan Jimenez. Baera again, ushering it along. Calera had a moment of space. Was unable to root out the run of Shore. There is some promise around the area. There's just a lack of final third incision or close control. We're beyond the 40-minute mark. As things stand, Tyrone Marshall will be the elated of the two managers. Meanwhile, Matt Pilkington will likely have some words for his lads with the way the run of play has gone in this first half. It is a New York side that has been on the precipice of the postseason, has been seemingly a win away for 2 or 3 weeks now. Entered this weekend with a chance to clinch if they won and got some help from multiple teams elsewhere. But with virtually every team below them winning tonight, including Carolina now, they find themselves sitting on the outside looking in with halftime of this match beckoning. It would mean they don't control their own destiny come next week in the finale against Huntsville, which seemed to be the worst of fates they would have, even if results started breaking against them come the start of September. Chirilla. Picks out Mbomodem, the goal scorer tonight. Daly, low cross. It is Kenji Mbomodem again. He goes down in the box. The referee immediately waves at him to get up. Appeared to be very limited contact, if that. Are there final dramatics before intermission? Tug on Jimenez's jersey from Carrizo, and that will send Maximo Carrizo in the book. Yellow cards beginning to pile up here these last 10 minutes or so. So Maximo Carrizo, the academy product.
A yellow card has been issued to New York City's number 29,
Walk the
Maximo
tightrope
Carrizo,
for the
in
remainder of this
43rd
one.
minute. Tarjeta amarilla en el minuto 43 para el número 29 de New York City, Maximo Carrizo.
Daly strolling ahead, and he does latch onto this. What can the Duke graduate conjure? Yair Ramos. Steven Jimenez. Tablante. It's a flashing ball in. That means nothing but the New York Navy blue. Chirilla overzealous. Final minute of the initial 45. Hearing word it will be 2 minutes of added time that separate us from intermission. A first half in which New York will be the more frustrated of the two entities. A team that, again, has dominated possession, but once the action has progressed towards the edge of the area, there has been a surprising lack of invention tonight. And Cincinnati catching them on the counter once, making all the difference. Mangione was the man who supplied that goal. And adjudicated to have won that tussle.
The fourth official on the sideline has
2 minutes have been
indicated there will be
confirmed.
2 minutes of additional time added to the first half.
A clinical Cincinnati first half. Calera trying to delete defenders. There were far too many in the midst. Is there one final talking point to write home about in this first half? Flashing ball in. Ben Alcazar deals with it. Only unconvincingly. It's loose, and New York's equalized. On the stroke of halftime, Johnny Shore has pulled the boys in blue level. A second consecutive match with a goal since returning to the side, and it comes at a very opportune moment. You see him link so well with Calera, and before the goalkeeper Walters can get off his line, it was nestled in the top right. Much needed from the 17-year-old Shore, and a lifeline from New York in its playoff quest. Well, they seem to lack that final bit of clinical link-up. There it was between Calera and Shore, and the 17-year-old academy product in his second match since returning from a brief absence, finding the back of the net for the second time this week. Johnny Shore, a man who signed his first professional contract at the age of 15 years old, part of that new generation of players that signed deals in the last 2 years. Himself, Maximo Carrizo, and many others. Has been trying to negotiate his way towards that first team. Has been on the fringes of the squad at times, on Leagues Cup duty. But here in Next Pro, when available, has been sharpied into the 11. That's an 8th goal of the year for him. Someone who Matt Pilkington raves about. Loves his creativity. He says his versatility to play either centrally or out wide. It gives us so many options. You saw him start out wide, tuck in centrally, and provide the equalizer right on the precipice of the break. Halftime has arrived. New York added the plot to as necessary. They find themselves level after a first half of frustration for the most part, but Johnny Shore pulling them on an even playing field with an equalizer in stoppage time. Our score at the half is New York 1, Cincinnati 1. Coming up, we look back at last week's action with the report after this timeout.
Action.
bright MLS store. I need something fresh and clean. Let's see what you got. I need that in my size. I like this. Cream on cream. The fit is cold. I'm ice cream. You like that?
We welcome you back from Belson Stadium, where at halftime, New York and Cincinnati level at 1 apiece. With the MLS Next Pro season winding down, Michelle Montaigne visited the Town FC out in the Bay Area for this latest edition of The Report.
For Carmichael, goalie off of his line and into the back of the net. Oh my!
As things in MLS Next Pro continue to heat up, the report comes to you from the Bay Area, home of the Town FC for the first time ever. I'm Michelle Montaigne. The playoff picture in the Western Conference is beginning to take shape. But as far as the latter parts of match week 28 go, only one team in the Eastern Conference has been able to clinch a playoff spot. That would be FC Cincinnati too. So to say that there is drama unfolding would be quite the understatement. Union 2 added to the dramatics with a thrilling comeback win over New York City FC 2. Down by 2 goals, Union 2 scored 3 unanswered to take a 4-3 victory and clinch their place in the postseason for the 3rd straight year. As of now, they are just the 3rd team to make the postseason in all 3 seasons of MLS Next Pro. Also clinching a postseason berth, Orlando City B. The Young Lions scored 3 second-half goals in a win over Chicago Fire 2 to make their way back to the playoffs. Jack Lynn opened the scoring, netting his 3rd goal in 3 straight matches. And speaking of streaks, goalkeeper Carlos Mercado posted his 2nd consecutive clean sheet, his 3rd of the season. The other team from Florida inched their way closer to the postseason. Inter Miami 2 earned 3 valuable points on the road thanks to a game winner from 23-year-old Ryan Carmichael in a 1-0 win over Atlanta United 2. After finishing last season at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, the turnaround this year has been impressive to watch. So that brings us to who is still in contention in the packed Eastern Conference. Inter Miami 2 is trailed by NYCFC 2, Crew 2, and Crown Legacy, who each have 42 total points. Now, Fire 2 is just 1 point behind. They occupy the final playoff spot entering match week 29. Still in the hunt is Carolina Core, Chattanooga, and Red Bulls 2. What's most impressive, just 2 points separate spots 5 through 10.
Pass into the box for Donnery, off the post and in. Medina into the box, 4 defenders swarming him, still gets the shot away, and somehow finds the back of the net.
Just like the iconic Lombard Street here in the Bay Area, this season has featured several twists and turns. Fitting that the home team, the Town FC, has seen their fair share. In match week 28, they had a chance to clinch a playoff spot over perennial playoff team St. Louis City 2. And clinch a spot they did. After a back-and-forth first half, Julian Donnery opened the scoring in the 69th minute for the Town FC before Cruz Medina sealed the deal with the 2nd of the match in the 80th minute. With the victory, head coach Dan DeGeer shared how the club is feeling as they head back to the postseason.
I think we're very proud. Very proud of the group, proud of the players, proud of the staff. It's not been an easy year. There's been some ups and downs, but at the end of the day, we're in a really good spot going into the playoffs now. I think this year, the guys are very confident, right? They understand it's a quality group. We have the ability to run deep in playoffs, and that's the expectation now. So we lost some, a good amount of games at home last year, so we take a lot of pride playing at home this year, which is why our record's been pretty good. So I think that's been a big piece of it.
To really showcase all the twists and turns, if we look at this season overall, they started out the season in the 12th spot and toward the bottom of the Western Conference standings. Slowly but surely, they've been climbing their way up, and by the time match week 28 came to an end, they find themselves in 4th place in the playoffs and with a chance to host in the postseason. In this episode, we're sprinkling in a little history for you. Right here, we are standing in the first civic settlement in the state of California. Back in 1777, Jose Joaquin Moraga founded what is now known as San Jose, a city that is rich with Latino culture and traditions. During Hispanic Heritage Month, we asked both Emi Ochoa and Cruz Medina of the Town FC what playing for MLS Next Pro while representing their backgrounds means to them.
To represent, generations back to when all my family lived in Mexico to now being a second generation in America, it means everything. Being a professional in the U.S., being able to play games on live TV, it's surreal, being able to have my family in Mexico still watch my games because they're on live stream, it's really amazing.
No, I think it's a huge honor, both of my parents were born in Mexico, all my family's from Mexico, so it's a huge honor to represent them, and play here in San Jose, so it's definitely a huge honor, for sure.
Also out west, several results and scenarios helped Ventura County clinch their spot in the postseason. Thanks to 8 shootout wins and 10 chances on the season, VCFC is living proof that the extra point, thanks to a shootout win, can make a world of difference. So let's take a look at the teams still contending to make it entering match week 29. Each of these teams still have 2 games remaining, with Whitecaps FC2 holding on to the 7th spot. Dynamo Dos currently holds the last playoff spot. On the outside looking in, we have Timbers 2, Sporting Kansas City 2, Real Monarchs, and defending champions Austin FC 2.
Altobelli over the wall and in! Altobelli presents himself, approaches the box, steps over, Altobelli! And he digs himself in! Altobelli. He scores! Altobelli has scored!
Numbers for Toronto. Ayari, it's loose for Altobelli. It's 2 in quick succession.
Not only is the young man on your screen right there the 2022 MLS Next Pro inaugural season MVP, Jason Russell Rowe also holds the record for most consecutive games with a goal scored. But there's a new name eyeing that streak. That would be this young man, Julian Altobelli, who has now scored in 8 straight games.
You can't do everything by yourself. You need to have your teammates to help support you and help you get through tough times or good times. So to have your teammates around you, it's like having a family. I'm taking everything one game at a time, and if I am able to break that record, it would be amazing, but I focus on one game at a time, and hopefully things will come as they come.
A lot of credit goes to him for the shift in mentality that he's had, and the leadership role that he's taken on. I think has been absolutely fantastic. And the example that he sets for younger players coming through the club is that there is a pathway here, and if you succeed, if you enjoy football, if it's a passion, there's quality and there's dedication to the club, then you'll have some success.
Here's a look at the longest scoring streaks in MLS Next Pro history. We mentioned the guy with the record, and of course Altobelli closing in on it. Last year saw Ibrahim Kasuli of New York Red Bulls 2 and Patrick Aguiaman of Crown Legacy each score in 7 straight matches. And Yosuke Hanya rounds out the top 5 with a 6-game scoring streak.
Action.
Our MLS Next Pro newsletter is close to making its debut. Make sure you sign up for it. You can do so at the link below. As we wrap up our journey through the Bay Area, we're reminded how much history this city holds. And speaking of history, Crown Legacy FC's Aaron John is on the brink of making MLS Next Pro history. It's incredible to think that the young Crown Legacy rising star was an academy player at the start of this season. The 18-year-old's breakout year, which included tying the single-season assist record, helped him land a homegrown contract with Charlotte FC this past July. Now, John shares the single-season assist record with 3 other players. Both Romeo Beckham and Mohamed Farsi produced 10 assists in 2022. Last season, Rapids 2's Marlon Vargas dished out 10, and this season, it's Aaron John in double digits, trying to set a new record with 2 more regular season matches to go. We're getting down to the wire. The next time I see you, we'll be gearing up for the pivotal point of the season to date, Decision Day. Until then, I'm Michelle Montaigne saying so long from the city by the bay.
Toda mi gente lo siente, 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 toda mi gente caliente, toda mi gente lo siente.
Action.
We welcome you back here in Queens, New York. Let's take a look at the Match Week 30 Decision Day schedule. Remember, every game in the final match day of the season on the same day, and in each conference they occur at the same time. So you'll see the movings and shakings of the entire Eastern Conference standings and Western Conference standings in the 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. windows. It should make for an enthralling day of football, and remember, when you look at those standings, they are so jam-packed around the playoff line, so you will have constant permutations on that day. Well, we have a crucial match that could define how the table looks come Decision Day. New York playing Huntsville. New York might need a win in that depending on the result they get in this match. How about we take a look at the 45 minutes that just transpired here from Belson Stadium. It was a frustrating first half in large part for New York. A lot of possession, not a lot to show for it. And on the other side of things, Cincinnati was devastating at times on the counter. A number of quick breaks. Kenji Mbomadem at the center of everything. You see him lay this off to Moises Tablante, who at least lashes at this, is unable to put it on target. And from there, the counters continued. Tablante proved quite dangerous on this left flank. He outwits Baera and had this one spilled by Arando. Was fortunate he was able to pounce on it. And then eventually Cincinnati just continued to create on these quick restart scenarios. Ramos from afar, right into the gloves. And here is the opener. Comes in the 31st minute. Peter Mangione sliding it through for Kenji Mbomadem. It is a stretch New York back line that doesn't recover. And just like that, Cincy in front 1-0. And we thought, hey, we're heading into a first half intermission where clearly New York is frustrated with what they've just seen. It's been brutal. Well, how about this? On the stroke of halftime, New York continuing to press forward, and finally, Johnny Shore from a tight angle, driving it into the top right corner in first half stoppage time. That pulled New York level, and that is where we sit after 45 minutes. And speaking of the 45 minutes we just witnessed, here are the numbers for you. Possession is not shown here. New York had the bulk of it, though, but Cincinnati, the bulk of the chances on the counterattack. That's been the story of the day. Cincinnati on the break has created a number of key chances. Meanwhile, New York has struggled to break down this ironclad Cincy back line. But the one shot on goal was their equalizer. It was the moment of brilliance they needed to find themselves on a level playing field after 45. So that's where we sit after the first half of play. All the play for New York with the edge possessionally, Cincinnati more lethal on the break. We are just about set to start the second half. It will be very interesting to see how both coaches approach this, because for New York, again, even the point tonight does put them in the top 8 by the skin of their teeth. It makes them really have some pressure on them ahead of that final match day. Now, if they are to win tonight, they would head right back into the top 4-5-ish in the table, right around where Crown Legacy is. So it would give them slightly more breathing room heading into the final day at Belson Stadium on decision day. Meanwhile, Cincinnati, as things stand, they have tumbled to second due to the fact that Philadelphia Union 2 has a goal differential edge over them at the moment. They need 2 points or more to climb back into first ahead of decision day, where they will play Orlando City B in what should be an enthralling fixture. It will be Cincinnati to get us back underway. They will be going left to right, New York right to left on your screen. And it appears retaking the kickoff may be a necessity. Now Chirilla gets us underway. A lot hangs in the balance for both these teams' respective aspirations. For Cincinnati, their quest for the inside track on the Eastern Conference's 1 seed hangs in the balance to some degree. For New York, it becomes an issue of needing 2 or more points to give yourself a little bit of breathing room before the final day, although either way, there will be some pressure on them regardless. This is Baera. And Jonathan Jimenez, who had his bright spots in the first half. Hearing word neither team opted to make any alterations at halftime. Which I'm sure if New York found itself down, maybe it would be a different equation for Matt Pilkington. But Johnny Shore made sure that was not a concern with his 46th minute strike. Still only 3 teams have clinched safe passage into the postseason. Cincinnati is one of those. They are in a position where they've locked up a top 2 seed as things stand in the Eastern Conference. Here's the ball forward. Looking for the feet of Peter Mangione, the former 2-time Big Ten Player of the Year at Penn State. It's bashed right off the face of the Cincinnati midfielder. He was slow to get up. After that coming together. It appears it may be Yair Ramos, the 18-year-old, who's been an integral part of this midfield for the Orange and Blue the last few weeks. Pressing, and it appeared took a ball directly to the head. Well, scary sight. Yair Ramos is still slow to get up to his feet. Young player with plenty of potential. Joined the club from his boyhood outfit Caracas FC in January and has started now 8 of the last 10 games as a key cog in that defensive midfield sector of the pitch. He has really anchored the midfield, especially when Cincinnati pivots to a 3-4-2-1. He will head off on his own power to get looked at further by the physios. That means he'll be off the pitch for at least 2 minutes due to the off-field treatment rule in MLS NEXT Pro. It's a rule aimed at reducing gamesmanship. Players must head off for 2 minutes if the physios are required to enter the fray in order to reduce the exaggeration of ailments, although that appeared to be a very scary sight. We hope that at a bare minimum he is all right to continue in the tail stretch of the season, even if his day may come to a premature close. This is Maximo Carrizo. And it appears Ramos is intent on re-entering, so a very welcome sight for all involved. Elias. Ushered wide to Baera. Jimenez. This duo has been on the same wavelength the entirety of this contest. It's been a clear intention to attack down this far side. Baera outwits his defender. Ran out of room along the touchline, though. Well, for Paul Walters, it was not a very involved first half for him. Was a spectator for large spurts of it. Could really do nothing about that Johnny Shore effort, which was just placed to perfection. So the only real shot he's faced has wound up in the back of his net by no fault of his own, in all honesty. Here's Tiao's cross. And finally comes loose towards Steven Jimenez, youngest homegrown player in Cincinnati history. When you evaluate both coaches' talking points at intermission, for New York, I'm sure that there's an emphasis on winning the match. Obviously, they can't afford to give away all of the points regardless, and I'm sure the counterattack is a major point of concern for Matt Pilkington. But given that it is such a gridlocked race around the playoff line, right now, 3 teams, 7 through 9 in the table, level on 43 points. Does not allow very much margin for error. I'm sure that Matt Pilkington would like to put less weight on decision day if he can and give his side some margin for error. For Cincinnati, I'm sure that you'd imagine they'd be content with any sort of result here, although with the 1 seed on their minds, 2+ points would be ideal. As the yellow is flashed to the returning Yair Ramos for that challenge. Good to see Ramos is back. He's greeted back with a caution, just wrestling with Elias and booked for his troubles, tugging at the kid a bit. Baera. Carrizo. Surveying for support. This is Chris Tiao. Calera coming deeper to claim after a first half in which he was largely isolated by his standards. Room to break now for Cincinnati. Mangione switching it with aplomb to Amir Daly. Perhaps budding spells of possession in the immediate vicinity for the orange and blue. Daly, two-time All-ACC selection at Duke. This is the goal scorer, Bomadem. He's into a thicket of navy blue kids. Well, if you're just joining us, we welcome you into Belson Stadium on the campus of St. John's University, the home of New York City FC2 for the bulk of this season. Penultimate match day. New York right now sits inside the top 8 by the skin of its teeth. Meanwhile, Cincinnati's quest for the 1 seed would head to the final day with themselves level on points with Philadelphia if this result were to hold and they were to lose the ensuing shootout. There's some contact on the far side. The referee is just trying to sort this out now. There'll be no card shown, but a whistle against Cincinnati. Fans, this portion of the match is brought to you by St. John's University, the official undergraduate partner of New York City FC2. Approaching the 55-minute threshold, Sam Goldfarb bringing you all of the action from one of the boroughs of New York City in Queens. Final two matches will be played on this very ground for New York City FC2. For Cincinnati, they return home and play at TQL Stadium for their final match of the season in what will be a top three banner clash between themselves and Orlando City B. Orlando side that has caught fire these last 2 months. Owusu, it's a vertical ball forward. It's one that Calera does well to keep in play. He's unable to skew his cross into the corridor of uncertainty. Are. Sure, the goal scorer for New York. On the same wavelength as Carrizo. Comes to Amir Daly, who's growing in confidence. Jimenez. Now ushered wide. This is Moises Tablante. Final touch off of the attacker, says the referee. On the other side of things for Alex Rando, found himself under fire far more despite Cincinnati controlling far less of the ball. He may have more to deal with here, and Bomadem only as far as Gael Gibert, the Frenchman. Tablante again, spaced across, it's low. This time playing confidently by Rando. But in that first half, it was a collection of long-range efforts. Had to deal with some issues from the flanks as well, with Tablante breaking free on a number of occasions. He handled every test pretty confidently, with the exception of the one-on-one that Kenji Mbomadem slotted home with poise. And not much he could do about it. Had to come off his line. Ultimately couldn't close down the angle in time. There's not much to lament about his efforts in the opening 45. Now Tiao clattering into Gibert. Here's Gibert may be booked here. Gael Gibert, 24-year-old, shown the yellow card. He's the third Cincinnati man in the book tonight.
A yellow card has been issued.
24-year-old who spent his final season of college soccer at Clemson after 3 years at Oregon State. You get another look at the challenge. It is pretty aggressive. He does manage to pull out from going full studs up, but he definitely catches the boots of Chris Tiao, and no real debates from even the culprit himself after the fact. Elias. We rapidly approach the hour mark. The question becomes, will this open up for either side? I feel Cincinnati would be more likely to do it on the counter, but New York has shown that this orange and blue defense not impermeable. Hereward, Cincinnati will be the first team to ready a change. Yair Ramos may be the man to vacate. Tablante, blistering pace. and latches onto it again. And Moises to Blante. It was rising, but never dipped. And now that change may occur. Will be the man who scored the equalizer the last time these two teams met, Guilherme Santos,
Cincinnati
who replaces the more defensive-minded midfielder Yair Ramos.
Santos. He replaces number 52, Yair Ramos Pérez. Cambio de Cincinnati en el minuto 60, entra el número 46, Guilherme Santos, por el número 52.
Guilherme Santos, the 23-year-old who signed his Next Pro contract on May 16th. After spending the bulk of his career in Atlético Mineiro's employ. He did not feature for the senior side in Brazil. The Brazilian Giants was loaned to a number of clubs over the last 4 years. He has found a home here in Cincinnati and has been a frequent starter for the most part. Did miss 2 months before returning last week and now finds himself as a second-half sub for the second consecutive match. Has 3 goals to his name, and one of them came at a crucial spell the last time these two teams locked horns on July 7th. It was an equalizer right around this time. He was definitely more attack-minded than Ramos, who's more known for his ability to sit back and perform as a ball-winning midfielder. So the intention potentially becoming a little more crystallized from Tyrone Marshall. There is a desire to chase this at least a bit. Daily. And here is Santos' first touch. Sent for a tumble by Tiao. Chirilla. Rosansky penalized for this tackle. This is an appetizing free kick for Cincinnati. And it is not outside the realm of possibility to create havoc from these situations. It is a little hard to go direct from here. Probably about 35 yards if I'm a guessing man. Bomadem will opt to just take it short. And Gioni floating it to the back stick. Trickery on the edge, it's flicked across. And it was a very eye-popping effort that just trickled wide of the near post. This was clever, a training ground routine from Cincinnati too. You see this cut back? It was the center back, Gail Jabert, who got the touch to it. And he's just unable to pick out that top left corner. They had New York's defense backpedaling with no real answers. Guilherme Santos looking through for Bomadem, who's still tussling for it. Finally escorted out of danger by Haxare. Calera. And donning the captain's armband, the talisman up top. Rosansky. Inside the final half hour. It all hangs in the balance here from Belson Stadium. That extra point, if we were to go to a shootout, which is still a long way off, proved quite valuable for either team's postseason hopes, especially for Cincinnati's first place aspirations. Elias. Ushered along, low cross from Shore. Comes back to him. Still Johnny Shore. Jimenez will settle on it again. Another wave of oncoming traffic. Elias. Tiao. Biggest struggle for New York has been breaking down Cincinnati tonight. But we've already seen one moment of individual brilliance make the difference. Carrizo, Baera. Undercooking the ball forward for Jimenez. Only as far as Owusu. Referee says play on. Rosansky. Carrizo again. This comes to Tiao. Darting it towards the back stick. Had a pair of options waiting. Fortunately, threaded the needle between the two. And the attack may have been lost. Fans, this portion of the match is brought to you by Adidas, the official kit supplier for New York City FC 2. We are beyond the 65-minute threshold. New York beginning to ratchet up the pressure again. There's more confidence with the way they're stroking it around. But as has been the issue with so many Cincinnati opponents before them, finding a way to break down this well-organized, well-drilled defensive line has been the bugaboo they've battled. Have been more moments of promise, though. Cincinnati seems to still be looking for answers going forward. Chirilla loses out. Jimenez, Carrizo. Zansky has options. Here's Elias. Jimenez. Looking towards the heart of the area. It falls for Johnny Shore. Tried to control it with his chest, and he was not far off from getting a boot to that. Well, this is a dazzling cross. It may have even taken Shore off guard a bit. Great whip to it. It falls outside Shore's path. He has to kind of curve his run to get his chest to it. And then from there, the touch off his chest took it out of play. But more cause for optimism from the hosts here. Once again, find Cincinnati under fire. Remember, we told you the stat. Cincinnati, when they score first, have won 12 of 12 entering tonight. They scored first tonight. They find themselves level and now on the back foot. Have scored first in now the last 3 matches and did have to claim a late winner against Columbus Crew 2 on September 15th. So it's not unheard of for them to battle back and then steal the winner after conceding a leveler. There's a lot of resilience throughout the side, though Calera and company look more likely. Tiao, Shore, good looking ball in. One that stood up by Brian Schaefer. Now cleared to Guilherme Santos. Terrifically weighted ball, and Chirilla was just offside. Nearly unlocked the entire New York back line. Yellow is shown as well. Perhaps to Chirilla for dissent. Or remember, if you're watching MLS Next Pro all weekend, the action doesn't stop here. There is a slate of late games starting at 9 p.m. when our match ends. Real Monarchs hosting Timbers 2, a Timbers 2 team that needs a result to stay in postseason contention. As the whistle sounds against Cincinnati, trying to play out from the back. And then Tacoma hosting Houston, as well as Ventura hosting St. Louis. And those latter 2 matches could really define how the Western Conference postseason picture looks. Houston right now just on the outside looking in of the top 8. The result tonight against Tacoma would bring them back inside the playoff places. New York with a set piece. It is Tiao standing over it.
A yellow card has been issued to Cincinnati's number 77.
Floated ahead, the flick on header, and it's in! New York back in front! And it appears Clevis Axare has made the difference. Well, it was a training ground routine, clearly intended for Calera at the back post. But Axare manages to pick out the far corner. What a moment for New York. They flip the match on its head. The center back, Clevis Axare, who rarely ventures forward, has scored his first professional goal. And what a moment for it. A 70th minute stunner that has given New York the lead over the side that entered top of the East this weekend. The 19-year-old, who was the first ever player in New York's academy to make the leap from the academy to the Next Pro ranks 2 years ago, has bounced in and out of the lineup all season. It is his flick on header, which outwits everyone and nestles into the far left corner. And just like that, it's New York 2, Cincinnati 1. Orange and blue have been forced to chase after taking the lead right around the 30-minute mark. They were in major danger of dropping one of their first sets of points from winning positions all year. Axare is a native of New York City. Worked his way up from the academy ranks into the pro ranks 2 years ago, as we mentioned. Someone who is also of Albanian descent and represented Albania at the U19 level in the UEFA Championship qualifiers last September. Again, not known for his forays forward. In fact, rarely ventures ahead. And his first professional goal at a very timely spot for the boys in blue here tonight. May not have been aiming for the far corner, but they all count the same, and it will be a memorable one nonetheless. Sure. Playing this ahead. Elias in space. Piero Elias! New York rampant! 2 in as many minutes. Well, the floodgates have opened. Carrizo picking out Elias. Tremendous technique on this. The bend to take it just beyond Walters' reach. And New York has established separation. A 4th goal of the season from Elias. One of the more physically gifted players on this squad, according to Matt Pilkington. Flashing unbelievable finesse as he barrels through the back line and puts New York 3-1 in front. And now the changes come for New York. A double swap, likely with the intention of shoring things up at the back. It is Carrizo vacating for Camille Azam-Ruiz. Johnny Lopez also getting set to enter the fray for Johnny Shore. Carrizo supplying the most recent tally, Shore scoring the equalizer, and the double change taking place for the boys in blue as they look to shore up this result.
Also coming on is number 83, Camille Azam-Ruiz. He replaces number 29, Maximo Carrizo. Dos cambios para New York City en el minuto 73.
So Lopez for Carrizo, Azam Ruiz in for sure. Azam Ruiz is an Iona graduate who earlier this summer was a force to be reckoned with up front. They brought him off the bench the last few matches, but keep your eye on 83 in blue. Already 7 goals to his name. He scored in just under half of his professional appearances. A native of Santa Cruz de Tenerife, Spain. Now Cincinnati forced to chase. As Chirilla's effort deflects out of play for a Cincy corner. And now if you're New York, it becomes an issue of holding on to a result. Cincinnati will be chasing this now, and they are making yet another change.
Substitution for Cincinnati, coming on is number 43, Jesus Castellano. He replaces number 49,
It is an attack-minded change.
This is in the 73rd
Jesus
minute.
Castellano
Cambio de Cincinnati,
entering the
número
action.
76,
He replaces
por el
Peter
número 43,
Mangione.
Jesus Castellano por el número 49, Peter Mangione.
Castellano, another man who's caused some trouble in the final third, can play either up front or as a wing back. Here's the outswinger. It falls briefly and smashed out of danger. Authoritatively at that. Well, if you're just joining us, New York has completely flipped the script. Trailing 1-0 after 31 minutes. Johnny Shore equalizing just before the break. And then 2 goals in 3 minutes once we hit the 70-minute threshold. Clevis Haxare making the difference with a flick-on header. And then Piero Elias with a tremendous finish in the 73rd. New York in full control now. Fans, this portion of the match is brought to you by Etihad Airways, the official airline partner of New York City FC2. And it's fitting because New York is flying at the moment. A team that found itself in the depths of frustration has surged in the second. And as things stand, it has established the cushion it needs to end tonight in the top 8. It is 5th right now on 45 points. They are right where they entered in terms of position in the standings. Now, they have not clinched the playoffs because seemingly every result broke against them from teams below them. But they would enter the final day really effectively needing a point to shore up their position against a struggling Huntsville side. Meanwhile, Cincinnati, they are a point below Union 2 for the top spot. They would need multiple points and then help to secure the 1 seed. They're already in the playoffs and locked into a top 2 position in the table at this point. It is not impossible that they could get help, though, because Union 2 has to travel to Fire 2, a side right in the thick of the postseason chase. Elias taking a tumble, and Guillermo Santos a bit overly aggressive. Wusu's clearance is slightly errant. The ball forward to Chirilla is equally so. Remember, there is still an ace up Tyrone Marshall's sleeve he can play. Ben Stitz, perhaps his best proper number 9, is on the subs bench tonight. He is their leading scorer with 7 goals. Someone who he believes at the next level with the first team would play a similar role to this. Need a goal late, come on as a super sub. And we'll see if they turn the page to their man up front between now and full time. Castellano. After that, the game changers that Tyrone Marshall has brought off the bench tonight. If this holds, it would be colossal for New York. We mentioned their longest winless spell of the season entering tonight. It was 5 matches. Since the calendar turned to September, they've struggled, as Santos' effort routinely into Rando's gloves. But against the team that entered the weekend topping the East, they find themselves in prime position to see this out. Now granted, Monday night, they also found themselves up by this scoreline, but there was far more time for Philadelphia to navigate their way back into it. Would take something Herculean for the orange and blue to overcome this and steal something from the fixture. Although not unheard of. Calera. Tyrone Marshall has been in moments like this as a player, someone who spent the bulk of his playing career in the MLS himself, and he's talked about how he can impart wisdom onto his lads in moments like these. He says there's a cachet that comes with being someone who has done it at the highest level, both in the States and internationally with his native Jamaica. But also he can draw from his own experiences as a player to both motivate and instruct his lads in scenarios like these. Has not been quick to go to the subs bench tonight, though, by any means. There's been a clear faith in the 11 he's put out. Lopez, the reserve defender who entered the fray moments ago. Rosansky reads it and just tapped it out of play. If you're Cincinnati, there will be frustration associated with a result like this, no doubt. A side that had not dropped a single point after scoring first all season. It appears increasingly likely that streak will come to a close tonight. Although there might be late drama, and Boma Dem is through, chips the keeper, and just over the bar. A fortunate break for New York, who could have found itself with late drama to handle. And a man who's already scored once, Kenji Boma Dem, creating it, just outwits Lopez, tries to go for the chip. Just off the mark. A deep sigh of relief from Matt Pilkington's bench, which has seen the late match goal go against them so many times. Azam Ruiz. Schaefer is dragged to the deck. And it appears Azam Ruiz may be booked for his antics after the fact. Referee still trying to get things under control. It is Camille Azam Ruiz who enters the book.
A yellow card has been issued to New York City's number 83, Camille Azam Ruiz, in the 84th minute. Tarjeta amarilla en el minuto 84 para el número 83 de New York City, Camille Azam Ruiz.
Since he has flashed some promise going forward since the third, the question is that Mboma Dem miss perhaps the final golden opportunity for a lifeline. Daly. Castellano. Switching the play well and ushered along wide on the reach of Tablante. New York will be in no rush to take any of these from here on out. We are in the final 5 minutes of normal time. As things stand, the 2-goal outburst in a 3-minute span, with Haxare and Elias the beneficiaries making the difference. Guilherme Santos is going to go in the book for his antics after the fact as well. There's clear frustration throughout Cincinnati's squad. You see it in the body language. A side that is not accustomed to dropping points from favorable positions. A side that entered tonight 3 unbeaten with back-to-back wins, and which entered tonight with a chance to secure a potential vice grip on the #1 overall seed. It will find itself playing catch-up if it looks to host the entire MLS Next Pro playoffs. Flicked along towards Calera. Walters will retreat and snag. For Cincinnati, it's still important to note they will host at least their first 2 round of playoff matches, assuming that they win both the quarterfinals and potentially the semis. And they will have the benefit of the pick your opponent system. It's just a question of being able to potentially host through the entire competition. Jimenez. Tiao clattered down, and Castellano may see a yellow for this. One more change being readied for Cincinnati. Tablante getting set to exit.
Substitution for Cincinnati in the 87th minute, coming on as number 44, Ben Stitz.
It is Ben Stitz, so they will chase this. And it is very attack-minded. Tablante, the wing back. Stitz heading up front. And you'd figure that means Castellano stays put in that wing back role as the formation remains consistent. Time rapidly waning on the orange and blue. A return to Belson Stadium is seemingly shaping up to be a welcome one for New York City FC 2. Elias. It's loose for Santos. It's an inviting ball forward. He's down on the deck, and now Elias and Santos getting at it after the fact. And it is more than just a scrap. There will likely be some red cards to be assessed here. An ugly sight at Belson Stadium, as Cincinnati and New York seeing red. It has all exploded here tonight. And if I'm not mistaken, the red card will be brandished very much more than once. There were some blows thrown. Elias getting into it with Castellano after the challenge. And then the cavalry came as well. Just not the sight you want to see in a scenario like this. The referee sorting out who to give marching orders to, and again, it can't be understated, with the final day beckoning, especially for New York, having their playoff hopes hang in the balance, they may be without some key contributors in that contest. And if the suspension goes multiple games for the antics, it would cost both teams in a potential playoff fixture. It is a simply unwarranted moment of rage. Guilherme Santos, the first man to get his marching orders. He substitute. We'll see if any further red cards ensue. It's still out. It's a question of who's receiving it. Elias fired back. You would think he would be someone tipped to be sent off in this scenario. The referees are still conversing. I think the safe conclusion here is you'll have at least 6 minutes of added time now. Red card was straight to Santos, mind you. He was already on a yellow before that. And now Elias is marching off the field. So the red card confirmed against Guilherme Santos, the substitute. He's been sent off for his reaction to Elias's challenge. But Piero Elias, as things stand, still walks the grounds of Belson Stadium unscathed. Now the referee may be heading his way. Our lead official tonight, Benjamin Meyer, does send off Piero Elias. And so there is a New York man given his marching orders. There may be more red cards to come, though. And mind you, Elias has been a mainstay in midfield. He can't play next week in what could be a crucial fixture against Huntsville. So watch this space next week, especially for one of the top ball winners in midfield for the boys in blue. There may be more to come. Those two were the instigators of the conflict. And then the followers on both sides emerged. So far, we are 10 on 10. We are well into the 8 minutes adjudicated of added time, although it seems we'll go well beyond that now because the brawl commenced around 5 minutes ago. Another red card has been shown to Cincinnati. We are waiting to get confirmation who the identity of the second red card recipient is for Cincinnati. As things stand, chaos and confusion mars the closing stages of this. As right now, Guilherme Santos and Piero Elias have been sent off. Elias scoring the dagger late. There was reportedly another Cincinnati man given his marching orders. We're waiting to get the identity of who may be the culprit of that. But right now, both teams officially down to 10. Will be Mbol Madem who stands over this set piece. We're finally back underway. 3 minutes into added time, almost 4. We're likely running well beyond the century mark tonight. The other red card was Steven Jimenez. So Cincinnati is officially down to 9 men. Steven Jimenez and Guilherme Santos sent off. Piero Elias given his marching orders for New York. And remember, the final match of the season carries weight for both clubs. Yes, Cincinnati is into the playoffs, but they will be without Jimenez and Santos, two crucial players these last few months or so. Meanwhile, New York loses its midfield mainstay in Elias, and again, a fixture where even if they win tonight, they need some sort of result from to ensure their place in the postseason in a couple weeks' time. So a total of 3 red cards issued, and New York currently playing 10 on 9. And it appears both teams may be fortunate that they're not down more men, because there was a full on-field brawl that commenced after that coming together. It seems academic at this point when it comes to results, especially given that New York is 2 men up, or a man up, playing 10 on 9. It would take something Herculean at this stage for Cincinnati to venture back into this. It's been a night marred by rare defensive lapses from the orange and blue. And Bolmadem gave Cincinnati such a bright start. Things began to unravel right around the stroke of halftime. It is snatched back by Bolmadem, who's ventured into the area. Finally smashed away towards Jimenez's feet. Chirilla. Daly in space. Good looking cross in. Doesn't find any orange and blue shirts. If you're just joining us, a night where New York has enjoyed a memorable performance in attack. Fell behind 1-0, Johnny Shore equalizing on the stroke of halftime, and then 2 goals in 3 minutes around the 70-minute mark. The equalizer coming from Clevis Haxare in the 70th, and then Piero Elias before getting sent off, scoring the dagger with lovely technique in the 73rd. We are into the final minute of the allocated added time, but remember again, we didn't restart until the 94th, so we will likely be playing beyond the 100-minute mark on a late night in Queens, New York, one which should finish with the home side the happier. Although there is time for things to change still. Azam Ruiz can't flick it on towards Jimenez. Back to the goalkeeper Walters, who got himself into a bit of trouble. We're beyond the 8 added minutes. It is all at our lead official's discretion tonight. A chaotic second half to manage, to say the least. Calera is sent tumbling. Brian Schaefer the culprit. When you look ahead, we've mentioned the final fixture for New York. It is Huntsville on this very ground at 1 p.m. next Sunday as part of MLS NEXT Pro's Decision Day. For Cincinnati, it is a return home at TQL Stadium, the home of the first team, to host Orlando City B. They will be without Guilherme Santos and Steven Jimenez. Well, there is the final whistle. We don't get to the 100-minute mark, but New York gets the 3 points it so desperately needs to climb back into the top 8. Cincinnati's opportunity dashed to claim the 1 seed. New York in a prime position to notch its first ever playoff berth. It is now time for tonight's man of the match, and despite the red card, it is the man who scored the dagger, Piero Elias, and is presented by Adidas. And what a finish this was to wrap up the point. Shortly after jumping in front, Elias in space, this tremendous bit of technique. Ops low, puts enough curl behind this and beyond the reach of the impaired vision of Walters to drive it home. And that is what wrapped up all 3 points tonight for New York City FC2. Well, a much-needed result to snap the longest winless run of the season for New York. They win 3-1 tonight. For our entire MLS Next Pro broadcast crew, I'm Sam Goldfarb saying so long, where the final score once again is New York 3, FC Cincinnati 2-1. Don't forget, you can watch MLS Next Pro all season long at MLS Season Pass on Apple TV and MLSNextPro.com. Have a great rest of your night.